as the topic suggests, we are talking about like beyond certification. So a building is not future ready because it is certified. It is future ready when it protects performance and well-being across generations. That is what I believe. And we need to adapt to climate stress, reduce resource dependencies, and protect occupant health so that we can make a resilient kind of an atmosphere and buildings. So my key question lies here that are we designing building for compliance or for resilience? Because if we are just doing it for compliance, then we are just looking at some mandates or some kind of certifications and trying to abide by that. But the whole point of this conversation is that we need to design our building as per the resilience. So in the new reality of Indian buildings, we are facing a lot of climate challenges. We are facing a lot of human challenges in terms of poor indoor quality or health syndromes, etc. We are actually facing a lot of resource pressures. But if we talk about all these things, we need to cater all of these environmental, structural, and physical overlapping issues from the start. And sustainability can no longer be an add-on for these things. It needs to come from the very initial, from a very conceptual and a schematic kind of a stage. So we see all these buildings out there, and like you might say, like some can say that they are glass buildings, they might not be sustainable, but actually they all are certified buildings. And they can be LEED, they can be IGBC or GRIHA. So they are all certified buildings. So it is, I'm not against certification. It is not like that the certification is doing something bad. It is just like there are a lot of parameters from where we can judge the building. So a building can be actively sustainable, but can be passively not that sustainable. But because right now we are facing so much stresses a lot as per the climate, we need to actually build buildings which are contextually good and environmentally viable, and not just make like a building which can just work through and through with a lot of energy first, and then we are trying to just offset that kind of an energy. So a few examples on the screen where at a colder climate, you can harness the heat and then eventually use that to heat up the building. In a hotter kind of a climate, you need to tend to have lesser and lesser windows so that you can just reflect the heat and you do not get into the building. Then you can have a composite kind of a building like this one, where you can do both of the things, and at the same time, by using a lot of passive technology and integrating that from the initial stage, you make a resilient and a sustainable building. And then another example over here, where during floods also the building can sustain. So every building, based on its climate, its context, is kind of designed in that manner. So yes, we do like design a lot of big and huge infrastructures nowadays. So taking these small sets of examples or these kind of way of designing, we can integrate in the newer kind of a philosophy, and then make the building overall uh, interesting and at the same time resilient. So earlier we were looking at traditional green buildings in terms of that we need to do energy efficiency, we need to do resource conserving, we need to make them highly technological and system dependent. But now when we talk about future ready resilient buildings, we need to look into a perspective from that they are actually climate adaptive. They are actually using the passive technologies first and are also regenerative. And eventually, once everything is properly passively designed, then they are putting active systems in place so that eventually they can overall offset its own carbon footprint, its own energy, and its own resources. So these are some pointers over here. I won't go too deep, otherwise we'll lost the track. So here are some passive first design which we can consider. One is envelope optimization, another is natural ventilation, another one is basically daylight integration. So this particular building is Paryavaran Bhavan. Many of you might know. So they have used so it is like a if you talk about in Delhi, we can't use a lot of very natural kind of a material because there is no possibility of getting them. But using what we have and the right kind of architecture, and then eventually putting renewable resources on top of that can make a highly effective and sustainable and resilient buildings. And when we talk about material intelligence, materials shape like both carbon and human health. So we can look into the materials in the indoors as well in terms of healthy interiors by having the materials which are low VOC, which has like zero added urea formaldehyde into it. We can like replace wood, natural wood from the recycle kind of a material. Here are some examples we have been working on in our studio, Macrocosm, making these kind of furnitures and wardrobes and interior furniture so that you can actually replace the natural wood and use these kind of materials to even cut down on your carbon footprint and even go in a carbon sink as well. Because otherwise, uh, if you use like a regular wood, you need to go a lot deeper into cutting the trees and using a lot of resources and carbon footprint. Then you need to design with for adaptability, flexible modular, spatial design, and longevity as a core green strategy. So 90% of like us needs are all the time in indoors, right? So we need to also look into the buildings in terms of that we have healthy buildings and we have good air quality, we have biophilic integration, and have good acoustic and thermal comfort. So talking about beyond certification, compliance versus impact, of course, certifications helps in establishing accountability and frameworks, and they eventually set a baseline through which people go. But what is happening right now is that people are looking at compliance just or the certification just as an end goal that we have designed the building, now give us the certification. But the real impact actually lies if we truly design a building in a contextual manner, integrating it with the material life cycle selection, staged interdisciplinary design synergies, and continuous post-occupancy performance monitoring. So eventually, once you have designed and put together everything, you need to also look into how it is performing and is it performing well or not. And we do not just want to hand over a trophy at the end. We actually want to make it environmentally livable. So thank you. This is it from me. As architects and designers, I would just say that our responsibility is no longer just to design, it is to build resilience. Thank you.